this section we'll talk about Descartes. He's the great 17th century French philosopher. He's famous for this idea of I think therefore I am. The good news about Descartes is he had a great imagination, and he was inspired to ask questions that in a way nobody had ever asked before, or at least they never asked it in the same way that he did. His question was, how can we be sure that we know anything? So he started to examine this, and the first thing he realized is, how do I know things? Through my senses. But over the course of my life, my senses have deceived me. My eyes can sometimes think they see something and then it's not really there. I sometimes think I hear something, it's not really there. Even dreams can be a kind of deception. And we've all woken up in various dreams that we were sure were real, and then we wake up and, of course, they're not. Usually we're thankful that they're not. If you take out what you can know through your senses, then what's left? He got to the point where he was quite despairing that you can't be sure that you know anything. This can be valuable in terms of humility. That's a powerful thing to remember, because a lot of times we can be so sure that we know something, and maybe it is worth a second or a third thought to ask ourselves, do we really know that? Maybe we're just thinking that we know that. Let's question it. The caution with Descartes is that he didn't really seem to understand what I call being in the world, or what Heidegger called being in the world. We'll get to Heidegger later. He ended with, I think therefore I am. He had this idea that, sure, I don't know anything, but at least I'm thinking that I don't know anything, so I must exist because I'm wondering what's real. The problem is he didn't seem to realize that he was having these thoughts and these questions because of the time and place that he lived in. So think about what had already happened before Descartes started his inquiry. You'd already had the Renaissance, you'd already had the Protestant Reformation. I think you had Galileo, or he was right around that time. So there was already a lot of skepticism in the air. The Protestant Reformation was a huge thing because the Catholic Church had been telling the world that we have the only answer. And then the Protestants came around and said, well, no, there's many different perspectives on the New Testament or the Bible. There's many different ways to look at it. And then the scientists came around and said, look, just look through this telescope. Look with your own eyes. You can see what the truth is. So there was already this skepticism in the air, especially in Western Europe at that time. It's not like he was having these thoughts, these ideas, these questions in a vacuum. He was having these thoughts and these ideas and these questions because he lived in that time and place, in that culture, in that cultural conversation, so to speak. This I, which is kind of represented by the voice in our head, is not just creating these ideas out of nothing. He was programmed to have those ideas. So it's not like there's this separate I over here called Rene Descartes. His thoughts and ideas were because of the culture he was immersed in, the cultural meaningful practices and ideas that he was already immersed in. He got drunk on the power of the individual, which, okay, again, it's nice in a way, but you could take it too far and you forget that I'm immersed in a world. I'm immersed in a bigger game than just this me, myself, and I game.